And Mark News sat down with tEQuitable CEO Lisa GELOBTER to find out more about her challenges in the tech world. He began by asking her whether she thought fundraising for her own startup was harder than expected.
I had investors who are friends and investors who are allies who told me to not worry about it because they didn't think I'd have a problem. I will say that I have two other good friends who basically had the same pedigree as I did, right? Had tons of work experience, were super, so black folks who had become super senior, who had worked at startups, who had worked at large organizations, and I'd watched their journeys to try to raise money, and they had not been successful. And so I knew that it was going to be challenging, no matter what anybody else said to me.
In the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement, do you think the hiring situation, the funding situation for black entrepreneurs has changed?
In my experience, again, anecdotally, I would say that there has been a lot of words as opposed to actions, right? So there has been increased interest in, well, certainly specifically in like mentoring black founders or giving advice or doing all these things. And as I mentioned earlier, there's another black woman founder, Tiffany Ashley Bell, who says, you know, forget this mentoring stuff. It's really about, make the hire or send the wire. Like at the end of the day, it's the end result that matters. It's not the words you're speaking, right? It's not the intention, it's the impact. And so there's been a lot of talk, and I haven't seen it translate into that much action yet. There are initiatives, for example, where there's organizations that say they are going to spend X millions of dollars training, I don't know if it's 10,000 or 100,000 black women. Because that makes it seem like we're the problem, like we need to be fixed. And is that, like, what kind of message is that? So, right, it's not the system that needs to be fixed, right? It's not how they make their hiring or funding decisions, right? It's us that are broken, which I find problematic.
If you could make some recommendations to the industries, to the sort of tech leaders now, and VC investors to change the landscape, what would you suggest?
It's actually committing to making the change. We're out there. It's about changing how you're judging us, right? Changing, like broaden, when you think about the criteria that makes somebody successful, right? Look at, right? So one of the things, a lot of black founders, again, not all black founders, but a lot of black founders have overcome a lot, right? Have hustled more. So for example, in computer science, every black person or woman I know who majored in computer science was also at the top of their class. Because if we don't actually, right, what we say in the black community is, right, you gotta work twice as hard to get half as far. Like we have hustled, we know how to do it, we know what it takes, and so, like just as one example, right, it's not necessarily coming from privilege, but it's what we've overcome, the distance traveled, as the Cape Wars like to say, right? It is giving credit for lived experience.